Tracy from SarahDogMagic.com here with another product flip through. This time we're going to be flipping through a game called Pugmire, which is a D20 fantasy game based off of a combination of the original Wizards of the Coast OGL, plus a little 5th edition thrown in there, as well as some of the retro clones and other D20 fantasy games that came out around that same time period. So this was the copyrights 2016-17. That was shortly after 5e came out. Also, a few other games. And in it, you play dogs. Pugmire, I believe, is based off of the fact that Eddie one of the writers had a pug, and that's why it's called Pugmire. So the main writer is Eddie Webb, with additional writing from David Bounds and Rob Weiland. And it's published by Onyx Path Publishing. Pug Steady is also involved in it, which I believe is Eddie's company. So what does this book cover? It covers a fair number of things. This is my understanding from talking to Eddie and others at Gen Con was this was kind of intended to be a great intro game, not just for kids, but hey, I want to play this fantasy D20 type game. What's a little bit simplified, gets me right into it right away, and things like that. So there's a Dog's Guide to Adventure, and introduction, like what is Pugmire, what is it, how do you play it. Chapter 1 is the Journal of Yosha Pug. So this is kind of history of the world, and a lot of this world deals with anthropomorphic animals, particularly dogs, although there's cats and other animals as well. And it's kind of like this world, there's no humans left in this world, and kind of these animals take over for it. So one of the things it kind of explores is this concept of what is a good dog, what does it mean to be good, particularly in this type of world. So you get some ready-to-play characters, ways to things about making your dog. So instead of classes, there's kind of like these callings. I believe this is also how he dealt with some of the issues around fantasy races, because there are tons of breeds of dogs, but you don't necessarily want to do each individual dog breed, right? And then there's backgrounds, which is something that is definitely in 5e, 4th edition too, but your ability scores, tricks, which I think in the past would often be called feats, your rucksack, which is your equipment, and then personality traits, ideal, bond, and flaws, which are definitely part of the 5th edition lexicon. And then there's playing the game, like how do you use dice, how does combat resolve, and then chapter 4 is all about magic, and then chapter 5 goes a lot more into the world of Pugmire. 6 they call the Game Master's Guides, and in 7 they call it Masterworks. These are like your magical item, legendary type stuff. And then finally your bestiary, which is your enemies. Also in that is the Great Cat Conspiracy. There is a supplement that you can get for this called the Monarchies of Mao, which is all about the cats. So, and then, so a little bit of information. I believe this is the actual adventure brought in with it. So we'll see more as we flip through, but that's just to give you a taste of what's in this. So obviously one of the things about writing this book, and I haven't checked with the authors or the artists, but I would feel that it would not be easy necessarily to just pick a lot of stock art that has just anthropomorphic dogs in it. So a lot of this art I've never seen anywhere else, and I would be surprised if it was something very common. So here, I just want to call out, they give you inspirations, books, and perhaps movies, but things you can, sources that you can use to inspire your games. Just information about it. There's Yosha Pug, And this is kind of cool. I did find this font to be fairly readable. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but it was a nice way of getting like a handwritten type font in there without it being too distracting or hard to read. So I love so much of this art because it's a great play on fantasy tropes, but with dogs, kind of like the famous picture of the dogs playing poker. So yeah, and then these are the ready to play characters. So if you just want to pull out a character and not have to worry about learning how this particular game does character builds, this is a great place to figure that out. So you have your calling, like what it is that you do. So in this case, this is a guardian, fettle breed, family is bulldog, background soldier. You get a proficiency bonus, your stamina dice, stamina points, defense initiative, skills, and tricks. So, and I think tricks also kind of play a little bit on powers in 4E, maybe. Like, it's an interesting way of doing it. So, and that's why it's not truly a 5e, like using the 5e rule set. And then Sister Picasso Kali, Pan Dashand, Spike Mutt, Princess Yosha Pug, and so on. So callings are your knowledge and specialties within the adventuring group as well as within Dog Society. So they tell you, each calling tells you what a dog looks like, their view on the code, because that's the code of man, and what it means to be a good dog, views on the other callings. So this is a way that you can start setting up tension points within your game. The 6 dogs, it's basically a table. You could use this as a table to random roll like a short part of information about your character that's tied to a particular calling. Stamina dice, stamina points, your primary abilities. So these are the 2 ability scores that your tricks typically are related to. Skills, the 2 skills you can choose. Rucksack, what's your starting equipment? That's something that was in 5e. And unusual circumstances. So 1 item is something that has a story behind it. And I believe some of that's pulled as well from 13th Age, which is something that they mention in the back of the book as a inspiration for this. So you have artisans, and they give an example here. Your unusual circumstances are you inherit it from an estranged aunt who's a famous artisan, discovered on a trip outside Pugmire. Learn that a strange object always keeps you focused. Oh yeah, and the 6 artisans are an eccentric noble, burning with curiosity, a merchant, and sold to a shop. So just ideas to start your background story. So artisans are dogs that are dedicated to the study of magic. So it's kind of like wizards, but it's really a combination. My understanding, I think I read somewhere that this is really a combination of multiple fantasy trope classes. So no, like guardians aren't just about protection. You know, they have a few other things going for them. Hunters, ratters, which is great. Shepherds, strays. So each dog belongs to a breed and a collection of dog family, which are a collection of dog families. So there's a family within that. And then companions are the most social dogs around. So that's like one of the breeds is companions. And then there's fettles, or tenacious dogs, stalwart and tough. Herders are known for wisdom and deep insight. Pointers value intelligence over everything else. And runners love to run. And there's workers and mutts. And then you can have backgrounds, accolade, common, noble, very, to me, 5th edition, like, and then your ability scores. So there are all the same typical strength, intelligence, dex, whiz, constitution, and charisma going on. And then stamina points is every time a dog is hurt, he loses stamina. So these are your hit points. And then your stamina dice are what determine what your stamina points are, I believe. And then there's a proficiency bonus for some rolls, as well as skills here. And then one of the interesting things is Constitution having a skill, which I found pretty interesting, given that I don't think 5th edition has any for it. And then each calling gets these aptitude tricks. So some of them are about what types of weapons and armor you can have. And then there are calling tricks. For additional types of stuff like focus magic, fast talk, things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool too. And then finally there are breed tricks as well. And then playing the game, rolling dice, working together, adventure, equipment, just a lot of the basic stuff you need in terms of playing the game. And again, my understanding is that this book and the stuff I read about it tried to go more with simplification and streamlining than maybe giving a ton of options. But there does seem to be a fair number of conditions there. And then magic, all the spell, casting time, duration, range, pretty standard stuff, which level, which callings are allowed to do it. Let's see here. That one looks pretty cool. I like that one too. Saw some cats there. This one I really liked. And this is the world of Pugmire. This part here kind of signifies this shift from, I think, to guides, who are the game masters. So it talks about dogs, their families, physical form, their enemies, specifically cats, but also badgers, lizards, other animals and monsters. The history, the rise and fall of the hounds, the imperial exploration and war, a bunch of about dog culture. The word of man is the ideology man laid down for dogs according to the church. The full word is massive, volume upon volume, compiled by the shepherds of the church from what they learned and what they felt was right. And then the core tenet and the most debated philosophically is be a good dog. And what does that mean? And then obey a master, bite only those who endanger you, defend your home, and stay loyal to those who are true, etc., etc. So there's technology and magic, time and money, organizations and factions, which can include the royal family and the royal guard, to police dogs, the Church of Man, to the army, to the royal pioneers, mutts, and the Friends of Man. And then there's Pugmire itself, which is a city. And here's a map. And this is awesome, because I want a library like that, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, and just, your all the different areas within the city, Oh no, there's a cat. Advice to guides for what they're trying to do. Reminder that guides are players. They're often the social host and their storyteller. And that everyone collaborates and also a referee. So I think there's like a lot of great advice in a very small area. Ways to hack the game, the OGL, and converting the other systems. So they talk about Story Path, Fate Core, Savage Worlds, Apocalypse World, Pathfinder, and 13th Age. And then these are the relics, the Masterworks area. Just to give an example of some magic items to use. And fixes, these are consumable master items. And then more on the enemies. And these obviously have finally stat blocks as well as examples and descriptions of each of them. Oh, that looks awesome. Rats. And Necrocat. Okay, that's awesome. And then information on how to make more enemies according to the guidelines of the book. And then finally the Great Cat Conspiracy, which has non-player characters, scenes, a random encounter table, just everything you would need to play Pugmire. And then finally we're at this was a Kickstarter book, so these are all the backers. An index. Blank character sheet. And voila. While I was at Gen Con, I also picked up, they had a GM screen. So it has all the stats that you'd need for playing the game. So yeah, so that's my flip through of Pugmire. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to subscribe. And also feel free to let a comment and let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.